boy is dangerous.
Bad feeling about this.
You don't seem to understand something.
The thing that I like most about being a dad is that I see that I'm about to impact the world.
Yep. Here we go. It's your boy Humble Dad back with another edition of Humble Dad Podcast. Got a good one for you. How do I know? Because I said so. I forgot to say that last week, by the way. So I got to make sure I'm consistent with that as the theme. We're going to talk about why men need women. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because one, I want to keep a balance on the show as well, to say that I know that there are men out there that are not doing what they're supposed to do, as well as I know that there are women out there not doing what they're supposed to do. And also, I think everybody needs a level of education when it comes to men and women. So we're going to talk about what or why men need women and see what the panel has to say. But before we get started with that, the question of the evening is, what's one thing men need to talk about but don't? What is one thing men need to talk about but don't? And we're going to start with our philosopher, Lost in Translation. What's up, homie? I'm good. And yourself?
I am well.
That's what's up. What you got?
The thing that men should talk about but don't is their faith. You know? Yeah, I got you with that one.
You did.
The reason why I say that is because it helps them to make sure they hone their moral compass, and also to weed out people who don't have good intentions, you know? Because normally if you talk about your faith, it'll disturb somebody's spirit if they don't have good intentions. So I think their faith is one of the things that they probably should discuss more.
That's what's up. That's good stuff, man. Appreciate you being here.
My pleasure.
Absolutely. Welcome to the stage. She's going for Mommy of the Year, Miss Tamia in the building. What's up, ma'am? You're on mute.
It says backstage. Okay, I'm here. Hello, everybody. One thing, man, I've been thinking about this, but okay, one thing I think men don't talk about a lot that they should talk about more is like their interests, like things that they love to do. So some men actually, outside of like your business, your work, what your your drive is, in reference to career and things like that, I think men should talk more about their interests. Some men like jazz music, they like art, they like, outside of sports, they like, I don't know, axe throwing, things like that. Or a particular show they may like, or something, books they like to read. I don't really hear men talking a lot about like their creative side or like the things that they enjoy, outside of what they're grinding for, like what they're working really hard for. That's just like, oh, I really like it. Like, I'll sit and watch this for hours. So I think, yeah, you guys should share about that stuff more.
That's a good one. That's a really good one. I appreciate that one. Hey, and welcome to the stage, none other than the person that thinks Pittsburgh's going to win it all, living in fairy tale land, Mr. Delusional. Welcome to the stage.
Man, what's good?
I was just playing. I didn't have
a good on us, man.
I didn't have a good introduction, bro.
Man, but we're going to the Super Bowl, baby.
You sound like Dallas fans.
No, man, but I'm not. But
we're not going.
What should men talk about, man? Fatherhood. And I don't mean the fluff of, oh, just spend time with your kids and loving your kids. No, because if you're spending time with your kids, there's a whole nother set of trials and tribulations you got to deal with. How to discipline them, how to go through the school stuff with them, how they do homework. Like there's so many layers on molding your children in the correct ways to do it. And everybody deal with different things, but it's the same. We all go through the same things at some point in the journey. So we should definitely speak more to each other about fatherhood.
That's a good one. Appreciate you being here, homie. All right. Hey, and welcome to the stage. None other than the woman of many trades and actually can change Prototype's mind. Miss Jamie in the building. What's good?
Hey, thank you for having me. So I'm gonna take it there. I'm gonna say, and I think the men are not gonna agree, but I would say childhood trauma.
Ooh, okay. We should talk about childhood trauma.
Not happy with that?
I mean, you was accurate in your statement before you said that. We're not gonna like it.
I know.
Why do you say that? Why you say? Back up your statement.
Well, because what I've learned is a lot of men have went through things that they haven't told anybody and they've never processed it. And so I think the complaint is that there's not a safe space, but there can't be a safe space created if we don't talk about these things. Like little boys go through things that I didn't think they did until I had a little boy. You get what I'm saying? So I would just say childhood traumas because y'all cover it up so well. And it affects you throughout your entire life.
I had to come back for that one, but I'm gonna let it go. We do cover it up, you know what I'm saying? But it's with reason.
Oh yeah, you told me. Remember, he says, okay.
Yeah. Hey, we can talk about it here shortly. Hey, but we got to welcome to the stage the other New Yorker, all the way from ATL, Miss Taken in the building. What's good, man?
Nothing. Mine's is kind of in line with Jamie. I was gonna say mental health. Especially I would say in a Black community. I definitely think that is something that Black men as a whole don't necessarily talk about. And they try to find their own ways to, I guess what you say, medicate or, fix it on their own or what have you. I think they only think of one way of what mental health is like when you say go to therapy, they think there has to be talk therapy, but it doesn't. There are various forms of therapy that, they can research to find that may fit more in line with what they need, but we do not talk about mental health as a whole.
Yeah, that's true. Why do you think that is?
I think
men specifically, not necessarily with women, but
yeah, I would say culturally, I think Black men kind of suffer, I guess, a little bit like what women say, like that whole I'm strong, independent, woman. I think Black men kind of go through the same thing in a sense that it's being less of a man to talk about weaknesses because you don't want to appear to be weak. And so when there's what we would say mental health issues, I guess it's perceived as you being like weak-minded or you can't handle stress or, things like that. And so they just suck it up. And it comes out. It comes out in other ways, but yeah. So I definitely think
for sure. Okay, I got you. So before I transition to mine, I seen you lost. You were thinking. What was your response to Miss Taken?
No, I was agreeing with her. Because it's one of those things that you have to be careful with what you share. Because certain people shouldn't have access to certain parts of you, and I think a lot of times people have demonstrated bad faith whenever you did this. So that's probably the main reason why most guys do that, to protect themselves. So yeah,
okay,
she's right.
Okay, so you was coming from an agreement perspective.
I disagree.
Let's get it.
Why does that surprise me?
It doesn't surprise you, or it does?
It doesn't. I mean, it doesn't.
I mean, just because I feel like we do speak about mental health in a lot of different ways. Um, I agree with we might not speak it with you guys, but amongst my brothers, amongst my peers, we talk about our mental health and what we deal with at a real at a real low level. Like you know what I'm saying? Like we get deep with each other. So no diddy, but but still though, like we really dig in. Oh, dang, we really talk about what we're going through, what we're struggling with, where we're getting brain farts, what kind of emotional, like, oh, I got a temper, or you know what I mean, any of that. We talk about that stuff, and it's a lot of it is about holding each other accountable to that because we know that stuff is highly volatile and will ruin your life. So it's more so about, hey, don't crash out. None of this is worth crashing out for. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, that's a valid point. Because when you said mental health, we don't talk about it to women a lot. That's what I would say. And you all say that y'all want to hear it, but collectively, I would say y'all don't, because if you did, then it wouldn't be a challenge to tell a woman that you need to be his peace, or you need to be a safe space. You know.
Do you think
that is different than mental health, though? Kind of like piggybacking off of what Jamie was talking about childhood trauma. Like looking at the stats, you would never know that the amount of boys who have been sexually exploited, taken advantage of and stuff like that, you would not know that.
But I'm saying I do. I'm saying I do because I'm a man.
No, what I'm saying is a lot of guys will not share that with other guys.
No, they probably share with their close friends. They're not going to share it with women. Because I'll give you an example. I was a part of a ministry. Shout out to Red Ink Army a long time ago. And it was not 9 guys in that particular group. Okay. And there was one young lady who was a singer in the group. Okay. When she wasn't there, we had very deep conversations about guys in the group that had childhood trauma. And it was really bad things that had happened to the guys in the group. And this is 9 of us. Right. So I'm saying, and that how it was, I was probably like 27. And these dudes, I was 27, 28. These dudes were 20, 22, 24. You know, and they were talking about these things. So I'm telling you, as a man, that we do talk about it. We just don't talk about it to women more times than not, because there is a propensity for women to want to believe that this is my knight in shining armor, and there are no weaknesses in him. And if there is, it makes me nervous.
Now, do you think that's women or men projecting on women? Because I think those are 2 different things. Is that if you believe that that's the way that I would perceive you, then you're going to act on the way that you think that I would perceive you, not that that is reality.
Okay. So I'll ask y'all this question. How many guys have talked to you about their deepest fears and their deepest emotions? Probably your husband.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other guy?
Well, I met my husband at 18, so
exactly.
Probably, not. Well, I could say other guys. I could say my dad, and I could say my brother.
Okay. So it would have to be very, very close.
Mm-hmm.
Family member.
Yes.
So you go ahead, Tamia.
I had like a close friend that was a male confide in me. I don't know how deep, it was, but he was being transparent. I'd say my husband, and then, yeah, not like out in the open, easy as it is.
I think we had you in order for someone to tell you that there's a need we need you to understand us more. Like, so we're trying to get you to understand why we might be making a decision or why we might be the way we are. We're not just going to go around telling people these things unless there's a need for us to express this, to get you to understand this is why I am the way I am, because either you're going to be around a long time, you need to understand my triggers or something like that, right? Or we're in this group and we need to be able to function. So if we all know each other's trigger point or whatever, we can kind of protect each other in these different ways of, well, I know he struggles with this, so I'm gonna make sure I protect him on that side. You know what I mean? Because I know his armor's whatever. So we're not going to reveal that unless we have a need that we think you can fulfill in that, or you're going to be around us that long to, to understand us a little bit more and why we're making the decisions we are.
Yeah, I would, also kind of give you an example of Michael Jordan meme. How many women crying emojis and memes do you see?
A bunch of them.
For women?
Oh, for women? No, they don't make fun of women like that.
You see what I'm saying? But they made fun of Michael Jordan. It was several years that meme was one of the top ones that was posted. And he had a moment. You think about AI when he said, y'all talking about practice? His homie had just got killed, if I'm not mistaken. But the media made fun of him talking about, the situation with him talking about practice, but he was having an emotional moment and they was talking about him being too emotional.
Now, was it women? I don't know. Was it women or men? Because I'm going to be honest, just in my experience, and I know that doesn't reflect everybody's experience.
That's a fair statement.
That a lot of times it be other men that be getting on men when they are, crying or expressing their feelings or whatever, so I think that comes from other men more so than women.
To be honest, at 18, most men are stripped of their humanity. And it's what you can do for me. And they don't care about anything else about you. That's real talk.
You think
that's for men and women? Yeah, at 18, you're stripped of your humanity. Yeah, because when you're 17, you're still a boy. You're still mama's. You know what I'm saying? But by the time you get 18, you're a man at that point. And it's all about what you can do for somebody else. Nobody cares about who you are.
That's tough, bro.
And that's the unspoken word that nobody talks about.
Heavy is the crown.
Yes, indeed.
Let's talk about it. Okay, so let me play this clip as we transition. This is something that I think that's important for both of us to listen to. This is Tony Evans' son. I can't think of his name, but let's see what it says.
You learn to actively listen to your partner by actively working on your pride. That is an ego issue. If you married her or married him and you won't listen to them, well, that's a communication issue and an ego issue and an unwillingness to grow. You have to understand that Proverbs 24:3 says, by wisdom a house is built, and by understanding it is established. So if you're not going to get the wisdom, if you're not going to move to understanding, then how can you have a house get built? Most people's houses are getting torn down because they're unwilling to position themselves in the position of Christ, which is humility, based on Philippians 2, and positioning themselves to be willing to learn so that they can have a house not that's shattered, but have a house that is actually beneficial to where they're going.
All right. So, y'all heard the clip. Anybody need to hear it again?
I need to hear it again because it was fluff, and I need to.
You learn to actively listen to your partner by actively working on your pride. That is an ego issue. If you married her or married him, and you won't listen to them, well, that's a communication issue and an ego issue and an unwillingness to grow. You have to understand that Proverbs 24:3 says, by wisdom a house is built, and by understanding it is established. So if you're not going to get the wisdom, if you're not going to move to understanding, then how can you have a house get built? Most people's houses are getting torn down because they're unwilling to position themselves in the position of Christ, which is humility, based on Philippians 2, and positioning themselves to be willing to learn so that they can have a house not that's shattered, but have a house that is actually beneficial to where they're going.
All right, go ahead, Prototype.
Man, he just so saying that I want to say this is so saying that I'm not listening because I'm prideful and it's ego driven, and I won't like. There could be a whole nother set of reasons. Like maybe I am married to a person that just doesn't answer the questions or help me get things done the way. Like there might be a real reason on why. But just saying that somebody is ego driven or like I understand like certain people are supposed to do certain things for you, but everybody don't do those things that they're in the role of doing. So I just think it's crap for real. Like, and it kind of threw in some scripture that kind of confused you a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? Like,
He threw in scripture to confuse you. Is that because most people don't read the scripture? Like,
no, I mean it could be that, and and he put it together well, but he really sounded like like a salesman. Somebody like when somebody's talking fast like that, I just tune out because you're trying to slick talk me. And that's what that sounded like. You know what I mean? That was slick talk for real.
Okay.
So,
Who you got going next?
let's go with Mistaken.
I definitely do think that ego gets in the way when people are trying to communicate. Me and my husband had this conversation the day before Saturday. We were talking about this quote that we heard, and it specifically said, understanding is deeper than knowledge. There are many who know, but fewer who understand. And so I think from looking at it from that perspective, I think a lot of times when people know something, they sometimes get in the way of themselves by having a deeper understanding of something. So like there are times like even like definitely being in these YouTube streets, you can literally see the conversations that are being had, and everybody is so stuck on the way that they think, the way that they see things, that being open to another perspective doesn't even get on their radar because it's just so black and white. They're right. And there's nothing that anybody else can say that can change their mind. So I definitely think that ego plays a part in it, because giving up your ego means that you have to kind of die into yourself to a degree. And a lot of people don't want to do that. So I will say Tamia.
So I mean, the basis of what he had to say, like the principle of what he had to say is like, yeah, you can't really build anything with a ego and without having consideration for your partner or the other end and having an open mind and listening, the foundation won't be stable. But I will say I agree with Prototype. Like it felt like a lot of fluff, but yeah, I just think it's right. I'm sorry, my sons are for some reason coming upstairs. But I would say, just like Mistaken said, I mean, principle was general, and I think it's something that we all know. Like your ego will get in the way of you building a consistent and firm foundation. In a relationship, in anything, you have to be open and have a softened heart, and just be flexible. Not in your what you believe your role is, but just in general, seeing the person on the other side.
Seeing the person on the other
Can
side.
I say something to Prototype? Because he typed
Absolutely.
it. He's saying that there's nothing wrong with ego, right? Because ego is how you view yourself.
Yeah.
But a lot of times we view ourselves very differently than people view us.
Most of the time.
It is most of the time. So if in your mind you have, like most people like to think that they're nice and that they get along with everybody, they don't have anything. And I'm not saying this is you. You know, they have a more positive view about certain things versus how other people experience them.
Yeah.
And even for me, I had to check myself, even with my husband, because I'm thinking that I'm like doing my thing. And then one time we had a conversation and he's just like, you've fallen short in this, like the way that you present certain things, the way that, and I had to check myself because I'm like, oh, here I am thinking that, I was being mindful of how I was saying things or stuff like that. So a lot of times if our ego is how we view ourselves, sometimes we have a false sense of how we view ourselves. And that's why it's important to communicate with other people, because then they can hold up a mirror to show you the parts of yourself that you may not necessarily see.
You got to use discernment heavily when you're asking for feedback from other people or allowing people to talk about your ego, because they're dealing with their own traumas where they necessarily can't see you the way you in a truthful manner. So they're giving you back a perspective that is just like it's only formed through their eyes, and like I said, and that's set on whatever they're dealing with. So common sense is not common, which we all figured out, right? So if they're having struggles with their childhood molestations, or they're struggling with their low self-esteem, or they're struggling with whatever is making them be them, and then you ask them to try to give you a perspective, or on who you are and how you are, man, that could do way more harm than good. Like I ask my circle for feedback on who I am, how I am, but I know them as well. So when they're giving it to me, it's always taken with a grain of salt, because I know which perspective they're talking to me is, and I know how I view them more so, right? Opposed to, so with that in mind, like if I seen their flaws, oh, he's flawed this way, he's flawed that way, so he's going to give me the response like this. You know what I'm saying? And I'm expecting.
Why ask for feedback if you're going to take it with a grain of salt?
Because, like I said, I use a lot of discernment. You're just like, I'm about edification, right? So I'll ask people who hate me for feedback, looking for a jewel. Like there might be something I truly miss. So I'll weed through all this. It's kind of like, what is it, like eat the meat, spit out the bones.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I take information back from people like that. And there could be a meatless bone. You know what I mean? Like, that was all garbage. But there might be some gristle or something that I can nibble on. You know what I'm saying? So,
but you realize you're the judge and jury in deciding what the reflection of you is. You understand what I'm saying? So yeah. You don't think that you're going to be biased, or can you truly be objective if somebody's giving you feedback and you're like, well, I know that's really not true about me, so I'm not really going to listen to that. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It doesn't.
Yes, because I believe in my discernment. So I feel like I'm as just as possible. Like,
so then why ask for feedback?
Like I just said, I'm looking for.
That don't make sense.
I'm looking for whatever jewel that it might come.
But you're not looking for a jewel though, Prototype.
I am.
You already know you're not, because you already said I know them. So I'm only going to see if I agree with their assessment of me.
I didn't say agree. I did not say agree.
What I'm saying is, you say if you're like, this is what you said. You said the first thing you said was, I take it with a grain of salt. That particular statement means that I don't value what it is that they're going to say. But then when you're throwing
out the baby with the bathwater, and I'm not doing that.
No, I'm not.
That's how you're explaining it. Is it how I'm interpreting what you're saying right now? Okay. Is you throwing out the baby with the bathwater?
No. I'm saying,
but that's how I'm interpreting it.
Right. I know, and that's why words matter. So when you say, see, if you're thinking that I'm throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but it's really you based on your statement. Because if you were to talk to somebody and you don't like them, and ask them for feedback, you would drop your ego and just hear what it is that they're saying. I was talking to somebody today, and also I saw a video that said this: a person that wants to grow has to be okay with critique and criticism.
Mm-hmm.
Have to be. So you can't be like, okay, because you didn't do well at what it is that I'm trying to accomplish, then you don't have anything. You can't
I
say
didn't say that
nothing.
either.
What I'm saying is, whatever you say, I'm only going to take it with a grain of salt, as opposed to a person, as you claim to be, right? As a Christian, Christians can't operate how the world operates. Like, you literally have to drop your guard and your defenses and get hit in the face and hear what they're having to say, then assess. It's kind of like what a lot of women lean towards, validating their feelings. You have to validate the person that just said what they said, regardless if you agree with it or not first. Then you say, Holy Spirit, is there anything about what it is that they're saying, that's your discernment, that is true? And if so, help me to fix it, regardless of who the person is. That's what I'm saying. So you don't want to say take it with a grain of salt if you're actually trying to grow.
Okay, but I'm still saying the same thing you just said.
Okay. Well, then
So
that's good.
regardless if that's the wrong terminology of taking things with a grain of salt, right?
Okay.
I shouldn't use that. But when people say things, and I know they struggle with whatever they struggle with, I'll listen, but I'll take it with an understanding that they're coming from this perspective, and how that applies to me. I got to take it that way. But I'm not going to. You just got to be careful. You got to be strong. I think you got to really be strong enough to be able to sit there and take that critique, because they'll add in things that will sound wow, just like you just tried to throw in a bunch of stuff that I didn't say, and I'm like, I didn't say this, I didn't say that either. You know what I'm saying? So like,
I didn't throw in anything. That's not what I did. Everybody agreed with what I said.
I don't care what everybody agree with. I'm telling you that when you said some things, I was like, that's not what I said.
That's not what you meant, but that's what you said.
That's not what I said. You should. We gonna run the tape back. We can run the tape back.
What everybody says, and so that's what I'm saying. Like, if I remember this one time that somebody had said something, right? The person this young lady had said something. People around said, "This is what you said," and she was like, "I didn't say that," but everybody else heard you say it. That's this situation. I'm telling you that grain of salt, not just me. You can go look up that as a definition.
It says believe only part of something.
If I'm taking it with a grain of salt,
that's what it said.
And that's what Humble Dad, I think what he was saying, where you're saying where he said what you didn't say. The part that Humble Dad was getting at was saying that if what the person is saying don't align with what you already think about yourself, because you're looking at them from a perspective of, I already know they had trauma, or I know what lens they're looking at me through, so I can't really receive everything they're saying. So you're probably more than likely going to choose the parts that are already in alignment with what you think about you.
But
that was kind of what Humble Dad was getting at.
But that's what I don't do. I'm not accepting parts that agree with me. I'm accepting parts that don't have the extra butter on it.
So you're accepting the thing that
I'm eating the baked potato, but I don't want the garnishment.
You're in my, and we can move on because I need some other people to finish the based on the video. But what you're saying is, I do assess what it is that they're saying, but I'm also trying to discern the position in which, or their heart, should I say, of why they're saying what they're saying.
Right?
Is that fair to say?
Yep, that's fair.
Bam, man. See, I told you, bro. Hey, Jamie, what you got on the video?
I don't have anything to add. I mean, I agree with what the video said. And I mean, because I've been on both spectrums. So I've been the person that wanted to gain understanding, and I've been the person that could care less about understanding anybody's feelings because you pissed me off. Right. Yeah. So like nobody wants to understand you right now. We don't even care. But does it make it right? No. And so because I've been on both spectrums, what he's saying is true. If we have to be completely honest, we should go into all conversations not ready to respond, but ready to receive. And a lot of times we're just ready to respond. And if we just tweak that, notion, then we should be fine. So that's my add in to that. It's just be ready to receive versus ready to respond. And we should be able to understand, the person better, which is good. Y'all talked that out. And then everybody came to a clear understanding of what prototype meant completely, so
without argument.
Without an argument, right?
Because we both wanted to understand one another. That's
Yeah.
what it's about. You know what I'm saying? Prototype, even though he had an ego, he dropped it at that moment. Hey, what's
Yeah.
up, boss? How are you?
You know what?
Did you come in on the video?
I am well versed at cognitive dissonance because I sat under Kevin for 3 years, man, and I watched women complain and say it's not what you said, it's how you said it. But they still didn't listen to what he said. He could have said it just as nice and sweet, as pleasant as I would say it, but they still wouldn't listen because it requires change. And that is always the hardest thing for people to do, is to take accountability for the change of themselves. You can say it with sweet words or you can cuss them out. It does not matter, because they have a specific belief about themselves that they are perfect and they know better and they know their story and you don't. Now, at the end of the day, you still have to live your life, but you do not get to complain if you do not change. And that's it. That's my piece.
That's good. That's good. You did not get. That's real talk. Hey, let's get into the subject.
Can I you made this a safer space.
Who you talking to?
I'm talking to you.
Oh, okay. Appreciate that.
Because it's like now I can now be open without thinking like you're really trying to make a fool out of me, or you're really trying to, you know what I'm saying? Like if I can now express myself and we can sit here and kind of work things out, hash things out, and come to an understanding and agreement. If we're both working towards that, that's what make it safe. That's what make a space feel safe, to where you're willing to open up and be like, say whatever is on there, and then we could build it and make it make sense at the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's dope. I appreciate that. That has been a microcosm of being a teacher, one, being a dad, being a husband, being in ministry, being on panels, and knowing that people want to be heard, right? And I want to be heard. So it almost as if it's like selfish reasons to a degree, right? So I know that I like to talk, but I also and so if I'm talking, I want you to hear what I'm saying. And so I want to do my best not to interrupt you. So this space has kind of helped me be able to listen as well as to provide feedback. So I appreciate that, because that's definitely been a work that I've been putting together. Because Mistaken, these shows that we've been on before. All y'all know, the arguing, like, we can argue, but let me finish my thought first. You know what I'm saying? So that's what's up. So we're gonna get into this question about why men need women. And I want to tackle it from this particular angle. What's the one thing why men need women? I think I said that right. What is the number one thing why men need women? That's what it is. What's the number one thing that comes to your mind? Okay, and you're gonna have to say something different than somebody else. So I'm gonna give you that think time. That Jamie said I'm gonna go first so I can get mine out the way. All right, go ahead, Jamie.
And it's very cliche, and I'm really excited to say it. You ready? The Bible says that it's not good for man to be alone, and then he decided to make it healthy. I want to get that out so bad. Like, that's it. That's all I wanted to get out.
So the number one reason why men need women is so they won't be alone. Is that what
yeah, God says so. He said it's not good.
Can you expound upon that, or do you want to pass the mic?
I'm passing it on, because I think Law's going to have something to say for sure in regards to that. Yep, I can see it on his feet. You see? Like, perfect. It's just
who you going with?
Lost.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The reason why men need women is to have a place to lay his head when he takes his crown off. Because the world requires so much of him that he needs somewhere soft to land. And his woman should be a safe place for him to refresh and to relax. So that's why it's important for his woman to actually be a soft place for him to lay his head and to get rest. I'm going to go with Mistaken.
That was good.
I would say they need women in order to, I guess, become the best versions of themselves. And the reason I say that is because the way men think are very different. It can be very different than the way. So in order to grow into your, I guess, the best version of yourself is like how I said before. I think we've talked about this before about your spouse or your partner being your mirror. And so I think when you're looking in that mirror and you see aspects of yourself that you don't like, or not that I say that needs improvement, right? Areas of improvement that I think your wife will present that to you to help, make you a better version of yourself. And also see things in you that you may not recognize in yourself. I think women, since we are kind of come from we deal with a lot of the emotional aspect, the deeper aspect, like as opposed to the surface. So I think a lot of times our perspective about certain things about our mate that we see that they may not necessarily recognize, and it challenges them. And I don't mean challenge like in a, like a negative sense. I mean, challenge them to be, better, to develop in areas that they, need development, or even find areas about themselves that they didn't even know was there. I think about, like, for me, example, my husband, I am the adventurous, aspect of our relationship, right? And so I have been able to expose him to things that he otherwise would not have been exposed to, just because a lot of times men are just very comfortable. They get comfortable very easy. And so I challenge him to explore other things that he normally probably would not have. So I think that's an aspect that women, can, one aspect in which men need women.
That's what's up. Who you got next?
I would say Prototype.
Oh yeah. I think I wrote this question for you, bro.
For sex, that's what he's gonna say,
That's
right?
what I'm gonna say.
Oh, okay.
No, I have a heart. Is there a heart in the house tonight? Say no, this one.
I was thinking the same.
Nah, man. I would say, nurturing. Like, my whole thing is, I like somebody to rub my head, rub my back. You know what I mean? Like, I like kisses. I like the nurture. I like the soft femininity. I like that around me. It's a part of my space. You know what I mean? That little thing. You know how y'all walk around? You know what I'm saying? That little thing. I need that. You know, I need to see that. I need to feel that. Like soft hands. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, everything you said, Mistaken, is, like I said, that is a unicorn. And most men do not have that kind of woman. And we can't find her. But
tell me, have you seen her?
Yo, that sounds wonderful to have that kind of woman. But they really just don't exist for a lot of men. But other than that, though, for me, and I think it's very achievable. And I appreciate that. Like, some dudes are just kind of ruthless about, I don't need this and that. But I need that soft touch. You know what I mean? Like, and then on top of that, like for my children, I needed them to have like, oh, mom makes the best apple pie. You know what I mean? Like that grandma touch. Cause that's how I think about it. Like who's gonna be a good mom to transition into my grandkids saying, I can't wait to go see grandma. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, cause I know how my grandma made me feel. So there's just something about that femininity that, hey baby, come here, like, you know what I'm saying? That somewhere you can lay your head on the lap. You know what I mean? Like until I was like 24 years old, I slept on my grandma's shoulder in church until I was like a grown man. Like I used to get clowned all the time, but there's something about it. My grandma used to wear those shoulder pads in her little jacket, and I would be sitting next to her in church. And next thing you know, you know what I'm saying? But it's just because she's just so soft. It just makes you, you know what I mean? It's just something about that thing she has. So that's what I need. Like I need that around my house. I need to always, like, you know what I mean? Something to, hey, you hungry? You know, like I need that. So
That's
that's what I was.
phenomenal, bro. When you said what you said, what I heard you saying is that I want a woman that my children see the grandmother in her. That right there, that's a different space that a woman needs to kind of attach herself to, understand, to be a wife where your kids get older and have kids and they want to be at your house. That's a woman that's thinking long term.
That's long term. Yep.
And that type of mindset, that's a good one. I don't think that has been said before. That's a definitely a bomb chaser right there. You know what I'm saying? So shout out. Get your mind right. You know what I'm saying? Who you got going next?
Tamia's the last person.
Oh, Tamia's the last.
Let's go with Tamia, yeah.
I'll go after you.
That's so funny because I was mentioning to my husband recently about me being a grandma. Although my kids are 3 and 5, I literally think about like, oh, they're gonna be older men, they're gonna have grandkids, and I'm gonna be like the soft grandma that everyone wants to see. So it's funny that you mentioned that. So what came to me, you said the first thing, number one thing that came to my mind was just the concept of like the man being the head, like even biblically, like the man being the head and the woman being the neck. And when I looked into that, something I got from it, and even now, like when I tried to go back, because I've looked at this and just figuring out my role as a wife, but on Google, there's this explanation of like a sensitive area connecting the physical body to higher spiritual realms. So like if the woman is the neck, it's that sensitive area that connects a man to his being, you know, like that part that keeps him, like Prototype was saying, understanding that he needs love and affection and care, that there's a moment where he can lay on her lap and relax, to keep him balanced in a sense and not so hardened. So that's what I thought of. I thought of the fact that like a woman is like the neck, that sensitive, very delicate area of the body, but it connects everything. Like if a neck is not stable, then the head is kind of everywhere. And that's where you get a woman being a man's piece. If the neck is not stable, the head is not at peace. The head can't just rest on shoulders comfortably. It needs the neck. So I just see us as that sensitive area that just connects the dots. Everything's already there. The body is there, the head is there, but what's connecting the two to function at its highest ability? The neck. So
Yeah, anybody has something to respond on that, or even to Prototype? What's up? I would say the practical aspect of what a man, why a man needs a woman is a prayer partner. Like she needs to be an individual that goes to God on his behalf. The one thing that I think about is we don't often, as men, don't receive direction or correction from our wives or women because it's coming from her. However, if the conversation is her praying to God and saying, listen, God, like this dude is not listening to me, but I know he listens to you. Or if he's not, I need him to listen to you because you are the authority of us all. Could you communicate what I'm trying to say to him? Right. And if I am out of alignment, could you talk to me or have him talk to me in a way that allows me to hear and see that? And if she is a prayer warrior, if you will, she will have the femininity. She will have the position of knowing how to be his peace. She will hear God speak to her in a way that her husband can't necessarily speak to her. And so what I believe in speaking to several different women, that they not about that prayer life like that. You know what I'm saying? And that's good that you are. I'm just saying that, Prototype was saying, like, where are these women? I think a lot of women go to church just to, I'm just talking about women. I could talk about men all day, but I'm just saying, as it relates to her being a prayer warrior or a person that's praying, like my wife prays for me on a regular basis, and she got to, because I find myself when I'm talking to her, trying to make sure that when I communicate to her, that I'm not disrespectful, even though I may not like what she's saying to me, or even if she says something I didn't like in how she said it, whether it's a correction or it's a disrespectful statement, right? I'm saying that I want to be able to communicate to her that regardless of how you're feeling at the moment, that I'm still going to be respectful to you. And so in order for that to happen, I think she got to be praying for me, because your boy got a mouth on him. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if y'all know that. Go ahead, Tamia.
I was raising my hand
No,
because
didn't.
I have a book that helped me a ton with that, and it's literally called The Power of a Praying Wife by Omarshan, and she
You
goes
mean you cut out when you said the name. You can also put
the
it in
power. I'll
chat.
that, but the power of a praying wife. And I read this last summer, and what it taught me is like even down to, she does it by situations. So like praying for his habits, praying for his money, praying for his career, praying for his friendships, praying for, and she gives scenarios of people that she's either coached or friends that she's had, and how women have prayed, and then she gives a prayer at the end of each chapter that you can say and place your husband's name there if you feel like, I don't know what prayer to say. Or if like you're praying for, one that really helped was like, oh, like maybe you feel like you've come to Christ, or you have a strong relationship with Christ, and maybe your husband is not exactly where you know he should be in his relationship with Christ. She explained like there's just things that you don't even need to have a conversation about with your husband. You just need to go and pray. Like if there's something that he did that bothered you, or there's a habit that he has, like one, I think in the book, I can't remember, but one of the men had an addiction or something like that, and the wife had countless conversations, and she told her, you just need to pray about it and you'll see that God will do the work. And like she'll give scenarios, and for some it took years, like it was years later, and the women are like, wait, I was praying for that. I was praying for him to be open to come to church with me, or whichever. So, because a lot of the times as women, we like to just go ahead and have the conversation. And sometimes the conversation is not called for because, like you were saying, Humble Dad, why I brought that up is because it literally is, it's coming from my wife. So I'm not fully receptive sometimes. That's just what it is. So to have the best results sometimes when you're upset or you want something out of your husband, like even one of the prayers was about wanting quality time, and he would come home and watch his games every day, and this wife wanted quality time, so she prayed to God for her husband to have an urge to spend time with her. And over time he did, and it wasn't forced, and it wasn't because she planted anything in his head, and she didn't have to feel guilty, oh, he's just only doing it because I said it. But that is truly a book that I read through, I highlighted, I wrote my husband's name in there, and it's $10 on Amazon. um and it was very, and they have one for men too. They have The Power of a Praying Husband. So like for you to pray for how to pray for your wife. And there's some days where I would say the prayers and I take a picture of it and my husband will be at work and I'll just send him like, oh, I just said this prayer for you, you know? So it's really useful. I'll definitely put it in the chat on the YouTube thing for everybody to have it, but it's beneficial.
So do you recommend, this is to everybody, you know, do you ever recommend a book or a video or a self-help correction, anything to your significant other?
Yes.
Do you think that's taken well in most situations?
So I've seen it both ways. I remember when my husband and I were in like one of the hardest parts so far of our marriage, and he tried to get me to watch this show with him, and I kind of fell asleep on it, but it was very informative. I think it was, what is it called? The Secrets, 7 Secrets. I don't know. It's a book with the circle.
The Secret.
The
Secret. That's what it is. It's got a big red seal on the front.
But he was listening to the audio, and we knew we were both in we needed to be better, and I knew I could benefit from it, but I just wasn't there yet to receive, and I fell asleep, and it actually made him upset. But that now we're in a space where there's books, or I know he likes reading, so like I recommend based on what I know my husband likes. So I'm not only going to give him how I know I receive. If I know he likes books, he likes like audios and things like that, I recommend that way so that there's already an interest and it doesn't feel like because it's already probably something he needs to work on, right? So you don't want to go receive that in a way that you don't like to hear things, like a long talking video. Like if he probably wouldn't want to watch a long podcast of people talking because he's very straight to the point into himself. So he's more of a book person. Me, he'll send me clips. Like he'll send me clips of stuff because he knows I like those things. I like watching things. I like visuals. So I would say I found it better to recommend with how you know your partner is most receptive, so that when they hear it or they read it or they're taking it in, they're receptive to it. Because if not, it just seems like you're trying to fix me, is what I've got from it. You're trying to fix me and what? It's not
so
but in the negative way, like
to add to that, what you're saying, remember what I just said to Humble Dad, you just made this a safe space, right? So now if you make it a safe space, I can now take advice from you. I can now take these things from you. You can give me whatever book, because I believe that you have you have my best interest in mind. So I'm gonna take whatever you have to give me when I know you have my best interest. I'm not gonna look at it, oh, you're trying to fix me. What you trying to fix? You know what I mean? Because this person has my best interest in mind. They're not going to give me no BS.
Well, I'm mainly saying that for people that may not be in that phase, that are recommending the book because the words are not connecting, because you guys can't communicate. Like, what if like my husband and I were in a space where any conversation we had turned into a fight? So it's like I couldn't recommend anything because to him, we're not even eye to eye.
Listen to what I just said, though.
No, I believe in what you just said. I'm just saying, like, definitely if you're in a space of hardship with your partner where your partner may not be that receptive to your recommendations and things of that sort, then try to put it in a way where you know it's something that they are receptive to and may be interested in. Now, of course, if you have that trust and that safe space, like you're saying, like if you're in a safe space and now you're in a place where you can recommend and give insight and you know, constructive criticism to your partner how it should be, then yeah, any way it comes. Like if my husband can give me a crystal ball and I'll be like, I'm not really into crystal balls, but what's inside of it? You know, so
I also want to link what you said back to a point that was made earlier when you was like, I'll fall asleep on these audiobooks that my husband's trying to get me to listen to, right? And that ties back into why we're not talking about stuff you want us to talk about with you. Because you're going to fall asleep. You're not taking the same amount of interest.
In the hard prototype?
No, it's not even in the hardship part. But after we try to put you on to so many different knowledges and this and that, and you keep falling asleep or you show lack of interest, or we're going to stop talking to you.
That's why I said he was mad. I said that. I said he was upset, and I said we didn't have that safe space. You know, like I said we were shutting down, and every communication we had was falling apart because of that reason. That was an example, you know, like I'm trying to get you to hear or understand how I hear by watching this. So maybe you'll get my perspective through there. And you fell asleep. You know, granted, I fell asleep because I spent all day with my kids and it was 11 o'clock at night and I'm an early bedtime person. But I was watching it. But if I fell asleep on your lap, like I was tired. I didn't disregard him. I apologized, you know, but yeah, things like that happen when you are not in a headspace to fully prioritize, oh, he's trying to communicate to me. Especially, you know, like what were we, 23 years old at the time? So now it's not like that. Now he says, "Oh, Mia, I want to share something with you." I'm like, what, you know, like, what is it? And that's why when Mistaken was speaking earlier, when she was like, are you more so sure that it's always the woman making you feel that way? In some cases, like falling asleep, yes. But like all the time, are you maybe making a perception of what you think women are going to do? Because I actually get so excited and so interested when my husband is vulnerable with me and when he lets me see parts of him that he does not always show. I don't feel like he's weaker. I don't feel like things are falling apart. I actually feel like we're growing closer.
That's why it's important for you to teach women that, because most women don't. That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
This is what I want, and I'm sorry for loss. I'm gonna say this part and then transition to you. I'm just getting to what she's saying, right? Most women are not wives. Okay. And so that's why it's important for you, young ladies, to communicate these type of things to them regardless, because men such as myself, Lost Prototype, are communicating to women what men want, and then they will say, nah, that ain't what men want. Right? So it is very important for you to say, listen, the reason why my husband is vulnerable with me is because I care about his vulnerability. I care about what he cares about, because that just makes you closer to one another. The Bible tells the man that we got to dwell with y'all and we got to learn y'all. You know what I'm saying? But y'all should do the same thing as well. Go ahead, Lost.
Yeah. Here's the thing. You have to make the time and the space to share, because sometimes women get busy with other stuff and it's hard for them to turn off that clock that says, "Hey, I got to do this thing that's next." Let me tell you one time, this really worked. It was a female friend of mine who actually wanted me to read a book. Okay, so what happened was she laid down in my lap and I read a page. She read a page. I read a page and she read a page. And that way we're both engaged. And then that way we talked about little by little about what happened. So what you'll have to do is you'll have to make sure that you create a space where it's just you and them in that space, and shield off anything else outside of that. So that way you can connect. And I think sometimes when we talk to each other, we automatically assume that this person receives it a certain way. Well, if they're not engaged in it the way that you want to, then we become upset. When all we have to do is make sure that we share at the same time. So that way we'll reach a greater understanding a whole lot quicker. Does that make sense?
That's good. Mistaken, have you been listening? Did you want to chime in on anything?
Yeah, one of the things you guys were talking about books. So I had went to a 2-day training last week that was called Fierce. I think they're like well renowned or whatever, but for leadership, being in leadership positions, whether it's at work or what have you, or like the information that was provided is stuff that can be used across all levels, whether it's work or family, personal relationships, things like that, where it was called Fierce Conversations. And it basically was just giving you ways in which to have these uncomfortable conversations that you can't avoid. like if the idea of growing the company is, you know, at the forefront, or you know, being a leader and creating other leaders, or you know, being, you know, in a relationship with your, you know, significant other or family, just learning how to communicate things that may not be easy for them to receive and for you to give. And so a part of that was, we got this book, and my husband and I, after I came from the, you know, thing, I was like, I'm like amped, like, babe, you know, because it was just so much information that I was like, I know it was really supposed to be for work, but I'm like, dang, I can apply this to us. You know what I'm saying? Like, just get our conversations on like a deeper, like just a deeper level. And so we're supposed to, him and I, doing exactly what Lost in Translation said, is that we're going to be reading it together. Where like I'm reading it, you know, to him. He wanted to listen to it, but I was like, well, if you're going to listen to it, the audio, I don't know, something about just turning pages as you're reading. So I was like, I'll read it, and you know, you listen, or we could take turns. But yeah, so we're supposed to start that. But I just truly believe that if, like you guys were saying about creating the space for safety, I don't think it's just men's responsibility to create a space for women to feel safe. I definitely think that women also have to create that space as well. And I think the communication, these conversations, is what help create that. So, yeah.
So, how would you recommend or talk to a woman about creating a safe space for, or like when would they know to do that, right? Because is it going to be with the guy that you're being serious with? Like, when would a guy know? Okay, this woman is creating a safe space for me, right? Or how? Because both people are pretty much closed off from one another until there's some type of commitment, or until they have an idea of what the other person is kind of have the expectations for. So it's really, my question is, how would a man know that that woman is going to be a safe space? And how does she know when to create that or let him know that she is that? Go ahead, Tamia.
I think that for showing men that there's a possibility in that, I think it's through opportunity. I think
You
it's
have to repeat that. You're breaking up.
I said I think that it's a matter of opportunity that shows the man that a woman is a safe space. I think it's through her actions, her behaviors, how she responds to things, um, and generally just who she is as a person. I can't say that I ever woke up and was like, for a safe space at a level of a man fully vulnerable with me, that I was just like, oh yeah, like this is the action I'm gonna do today to say, talk to me about your deepest, darkest secrets. Like, I think it's just been me being myself and listening and being, and you know, like when he does share, whether it be about something small, whether it be about his family or what he did as a child with his mom, like it could be subtle because I think men just kind of like drop crumbs. And I think that the woman's response to those crumbs, even if the man knows it or not, kind of sets off a light bulb like, oh, you remembered that, like, I took this picture about like my husband when he was younger. He told me, well, when we were younger, he told me like I have this picture of me by this specific Jeep when I was young. I saw it at a car show and I remembered the Jeep. And we were like talking about it. I was like, oh, that's like the Jeep that you took a picture. But he had just mentioned it like, oh, I took a picture like right by that with my mom. I don't even know where the picture is anymore. Whatever. But I mentioned remembering the Jeep. And I think that says, oh, okay, like she listens to like why I want this kind of car or whatever the case may be. Or if it's simply like, I don't know, I just think it's opportunity. I think that the woman subconsciously will show like, oh, you can talk to me. Now if you have a woman that's responsive, like, oh, you still thinking about that Jeep, or I don't know, like maybe you bring up something and you're like, oh, they're like, oh, you never told me that, but when you shared it, you felt like it was something important, something she should keep close to her heart. If it kind of went over her head, might take more time for you to open up, you know? So I definitely think that it's like a how she responds to when the man is kind of like peeling back the layers of the onion, and how it's like, oh, I can peel another layer. Oh, I can peel another layer. So I think it's just through experience. I don't think there are some things we can do intentionally, like, oh, he told me this, let me bring this. But I think that's still the aspect of the layers and paying attention to when you guys are peeling those back.
What you think, Jamie? What would you add to it? How would a guy know that you are creating a safe space, and when would you suggest that a woman allow herself to be a safe space to a guy?
I would say that really you have to, because I think you're also asking how to teach women to do this, right? Like how, if somebody doesn't know how to be a safe place, right? What does a woman need?
And I can provide context because the statement that some women say a lot, maybe more, I don't know, right? They'll say, well, I can't turn my femininity on until it's the right dude.
Yeah, I don't agree with that
Yes,
statement.
Tamia, they say that to me.
I know that. I get what you're saying,
I know,
but
I'm looking at Tamia's face.
oh yeah, because it used to be wanting to be feminine all the time. What I have learned to do, and I'm just going to say learn because it's not easy to be vulnerable all the time. One is, as women need to learn how to accept their emotions, not saying let the emotions rule them, but accept them. Like, okay, I am in a bad mood today, right? Like, remember I told you, just be able to identify those. But I think with every conversation you would have the man that you're dealing with, and you could say, hey, he could be like, what's going on? You good? Or are you off a little bit? Yeah, I'm off. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to take it out on you. And that does begin to build trust within the foundation of your situation. And then he becomes comfortable. Like, yeah, I don't feel like talking today. Like, I really want to, if we even on the phone, we just breathe in, but I don't want to have too much conversation today. That's kind of in creating the environment to accept one another's emotions. It's just emotional intelligence, right? It's getting a clear understanding. And if you're able to identify your emotions and accept them, then I feel safe to go ahead and identify mine and know that you'll accept them too. Do you see what I'm saying? But see, women don't like to identify. So they'll go straight from, you made me angry, now I'm sad, crying, and now I'm manipulating you. And then that makes somebody put their wall up, because I don't need you manipulating me. I could tell what's happening here. When really, if you're mad that I didn't call you at the time that I said I was going to call you, it would just be best to say that. Like, hey, I feel like you disrespected me a little bit because you said you're going to call me at 9 and you didn't call me at 9. Is there a reason why you didn't call me at 9? But normally what a woman will do is say, I'm fine. And she'll have an attitude, right? Or she'll be quiet on the phone or something very manipulative. And that doesn't create a safe place for a man at all, because now my guard is up because I don't know what you want. Like, just tell me. I know I'm late from calling you. I would need you to voice that, right? Because we're not playing games. But we have to unteach people how to play games, right?
Interesting. That's we have to unteach people not to play games. And that's a bar. Okay. Did you have something that you wanted to continue with that thought?
No, I think I covered it. Who didn't go?
Lost and Prototype, but I wanted to get the women's perspective. Go ahead, Miss Takey, go ahead. Go ahead, Red.
That's my mom's nickname ever since her childhood. Her nickname is Red. I think it's a big ask, right? To create a safe space if you haven't had a safe space, right? So I think this is where a lot of relationships are, not on a strong foundation, because there is an inability on both parts, coming from an awareness of creating safe spaces. The way that you create it is because you're familiar with it, right? So you move in that. Whereas if you've grown up in a place that you didn't feel safe, you tend to repeat those same patterns of behaviors when you're in conversation. And even for me, like I know I'm continually am going to have to work on certain aspects of myself, because of, childhood, the way that you learn to interact. Like, I learned in this thing that there are typically 3 ways that people respond when you're trying to have conversations. Either they'll defend, deflect, or deny. And I asked my husband yesterday, I was like, in these 3 things, which one, like when we're having conversations, do you feel that what category I fall into? And he was like, defend, and, it wasn't a shock, because I think when you do the work, you begin to be able to see things and call things out for yourself about yourself. But in being able to have conversations like that without defending, it helped me realize that I hadn't been very good at always creating a safe space for him. That was a hard pill to swallow as well, because a lot of times he would say things and I'm like, oh, you just saying that because, of X, Y, and Z, like at times I think he felt I was defending just because that's his perception. Whereas other times it was, no, I'm just trying to express my point of view. But because I think I laid that foundation of defending, that now that's,
you created the norm.
Right. So now it's on me to create a new perception. And so that's part of my journey, is in learning how to do that. So I am working on better, just like listening, confirming back to him what he said, that I made sure that I heard it the right way, because sometimes we could get in our head about what you just
said. You said this. This is what you
yeah. So I think having those conversations and being able to like listen before responding, confirming and affirming what the person is saying, and also trying to not be judgmental. I could say that's how he created a safe space for me, which made me feel very inclined to just literally share everything. Like I cannot think of one aspect of who I am or what has happened in my life that he does not know. Sometimes I can't even lie. Sometimes it's scary how much he knows. Like he literally knows everything about me. And I know sometimes people go through divorces, and I'm not saying that we're there, but just trusting someone to the point to be that vulnerable that they know every single aspect of you, that if certain things they shared, it would just, I don't know. But to have that much trust in somebody that no matter what, like I think even if we were to have a bad breakup or something, just the integrity of the man that I've learned over the years, I would never feel like he would share any of that, So, and I want to be that for him as well. Like he's modeled that for me. So sometimes, it's hard for women, I guess, to create a safe space if they haven't experienced something like that. So.
That's good, man. I enjoy when you come on because you give your husband a lot of flowers, So does to me. I'm just saying that's why I be trying to get the married women to come on to share those particular elements of men, because and also your perspective on how your journey has guided you to that. It's not as if you came in with all of this information, but it is well to be learned. And so you have people like Jamie that listens, right? But she's also able to hear her perspective and other women that she's talked to provide a knowledge that I believe that a lot of older women and younger women are missing, right? Because you know, as the clip said in the beginning, you got to drop your ego. Like, you got to be okay that somebody is telling you that you're not doing something well. And it could be that you're not a good person at that time. Okay. So this is why I was having a conversation with, we went to a married Bible study. It was with married couples, date night, right? And I was saying that people have a hard time receiving critique, even though they know that they're flawed. That is such a conundrum to me, right? Because with me, I want to hear what I'm not doing well. Will I rebuttal you? Yes, but that don't mean that I'm not receiving what you're saying for me to get better. It's just saying that I don't see how you see it. So it may go to that point where you're saying defending, right? For me, I am defending my position, but but what I'm thinking is that I'm telling you where I'm coming from, but you're thinking, well, I'm not listening to you. So what I need to do, and I'm working on, is to validate the other person's thought process. And so that's why I said the prototype earlier. I said, okay, so what I hear you saying, or what are you, this is what I think that you're saying. And I'm cool if you correcting me, or if I say, well, no, that ain't what I heard. And he said, what? No, you saying what I didn't say. Right. And so we were able to have that dialogue and be able to come to a point of, okay, this is what I was saying. You may not said the exact words, but your summary provides me that you understood what I was saying. And I think that that's a part that needs to be very much implemented in teaching people how to have a relationship. Lost the prototype. Did you want to add to how a woman could, at what point in time in the relationship could a woman provide a safe space, or do you want to tackle the angle of how a man can create a safe space for a woman? You all choose. Who want to go
Wait,
first?
can I just interject, because I would like
Oh,
to hear from the men. No, on how would you guys say that women can create safe spaces for men? Just because of, like what I said, if I've never had a safe space, I don't necessarily know how to create that for you. So I would like
okay.
to hear you guys say.
That's fair. Way to run the show, Miss Taken. I appreciate that. I'm just
um, I think to me it hit it on the head when it's like when we're uh laying out little whatever and you're receptive to it. Like we're watching how you receive these little nuggets that we're giving out, right? You know, so we're like, hey, I was watching this show and it felt like this, and then you don't go to sleep, you stay up during the whole show. You know what I'm saying? Then I'm like, oh, she stayed up during the whole show. Like bet, like you know what I mean. So when you start sharing those little interests that I have, or start saying, you start being interested in the kind of things I'm doing, or um, stop eating what I'm eating. Like, you know what I mean? So it's kind of those things that makes you feel that creates a safe space. It's really not rocket science. It's the same thing you would do for a friend. Well, from a man's perspective, that's what we would do for friends. But I don't think women have the same kind of friendships men have. You know what I'm saying? I think y'all kind of slight each other. I don't know. Y'all kind of cutthroat to each other. But to us, it makes sense, right? Just be a good person to us, and we'll be a good person to you, essentially. You know what I mean? But that's how you create a safe space. To me, art like kind of laid it out. Just be receptive to when I'm like unpeeling the onion. You know what I mean? And I'll give you more to handle. And the more you show me I can trust you with these parts of me, you'll get more. Like, you know what I mean? And vice versa. I'll also come in and be there for you. So
what's up, Lost. What you got?
I'm going to give you a creative way how you can physically create a safe space for your husband. Okay. Far too many times, women lose their husbands due to somebody else or some other woman noticing something in your husband that you don't. No other woman should outlove your husband. Okay. One of the ways that you can do that is you can actually pamper your husband. Okay. Have one day where you go in, you say, look, I'm going to take care of you today. I'm going to come in, I'm going to wash your beard. I'm going to scrub your head. I'm going to rub your back. I'm going to take care of your feet and your toes. You see what I'm saying? While I'm doing it, I'm going to give you a facial. I'm going to give you kisses. I'm going to affirm you and let you know you're the most important man in my life. And I assure you, if you do that, you're fireproof your marriage and you're creating a physical safe space for him to open up. If you do that, I assure you, he will never go anywhere else. You know why? Because the other women are not trained to do that. Remember, you're a skilled wife, and the skilled wife should know how to take care of her husband. That's physically and mentally. So what you want to do is you also want to take care of him mentally as well by affirming him while you're pampering him, taking care of him. Because think about it, you're showing him that you appreciate him because he goes out into the world and he does everything in his power to do for him. And the least you can do is show him the smallest form of gratitude by taking care of his physical. I don't know about you, but if another woman sees your husband glowing, they'll automatically know that he has a wife that takes care of him. So physically creating a safe space for your husband is major, no matter what the rest of the world may tell you. Because if you see and you pay attention, the ones who critique you are the ones who don't have what you have. No statue or monument was ever built to a critic. Remember that.
What a bar. Go ahead, Jamie.
I just got a question because Loss is giving it from the perspective of a married woman, like, and how to keep her husband happy. But what if somebody's dating somebody? Like, then what? Because it can't be the same, or can it? Is that what you're saying?
I'll give you an example.
Kind of elaborate.
You can still use that. The moment that you feel like you have to take care of this person is when you open up for a safe space. I tell men the same thing. You know, they want to know, hey, when should I let her know? You know what I mean? That I probably want to marry her or be closer to her. The minute you feel like you want to take care of her, that's when you do it. Because now you have a vested interest in it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's good. Prototype, you wanted to say something.
I do, but I don't, because I don't want to be the negative. To mentally, what you say, Lost? You said you got to mentally do something for your husband, right?
You have to mentally take care of your husband as well, too.
Yeah, mentally.
You got to be skilled.
If you could mentally, to the woman that can mentally take care of their husband, he's not going nowhere. Oh my. But that's, and we yearn for it, but y'all just don't. I don't know what's wrong with women where y'all just don't have the ability or want the ability, or just it's the biggest drop ball ever.
Yeah.
You know, like, this is why we don't talk or communicate, because y'all are not mentally there with us. And we try to get y'all there, but then I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna pick with you, Tamir, but I keep going to sleep on why we're doing what we're doing. You know what I'm saying? So the mentally, oh man, that's the biggest drop ball ever.
Yeah.
I could do that. It's over. It's a wrap.
That was the thing. I'm gonna come to you, Jamie. I'm gonna talk to what Prototype is saying about the mental aspect of taking care of your man. That's the thing that Kendra did for me. Like, she mentally took care of me, right? And so when I was able to communicate to her, and she was allowing me to say the things that I was saying, I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. I like that she's able to talk about everything, and then even if we disagree, we good, right? This is the part that is connected to what Prototype is saying and what Tamia said that she does, the part about the mental part. Never tell a man that what you just shared was too small. Because what the guy is doing is he is sharing with you something small to see how you handle the small. No different than how God does it, right? You'll be faithful for, if I give you much, you'll be faithful to much, right? And if you're faithful to a little, that's all I can give you is a little. So, and that starts, in my estimation, day one, because you should be dating and courting with intentionality, right? So if you're dating with intentionality, in that first conversation that you all have, there should be a safe space from the jump, because that allows you to know what you can and cannot communicate. There was a guy on, what's that show? I think it was Dating Dallas, the one with Tommy on it. What's the name of the show? Looking for Love or something like that? Love. Y'all know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Ready for Love or something like that. I don't know.
Ready to Love.
Ready,
Now,
yeah.
yeah, most of them are lying, but nevertheless, this is what I'm saying. There's a guy that was on there. He off the bat, he was like, "Hey, what do y'all think about being spontaneous?" And they was like, "Well, I don't know." And he was like, "So, what if we went like skinny dipping right now in the pool?" This is the first response that so the first interaction that he had with these women. It was him and I think 5 other guys, and there was 6 women. Well, they automatically jumped to, he's a creep. Well, I'm not gonna say that he wasn't tripping, right, throughout the course of the season, but what he was gauging was your spontaneity. They took it from a different angle to say he dirty, he nasty. However, there was another guy, a lady asked him the question, "What's the weirdest thing you've ever done?" And he said, I have a toe fetish. I like toes. She began to clown him after she had just asked him what was the weirdest thing. Right? So it's like, okay, he just gave you something. So how you didn't even create a safe space and you asked the question? No different from than the other guy. The guy, it could have been a safe space. Yeah, I would do that with you, but it would have to be me and you. Right? They didn't have to automatically, "Oh, you a creep." Because you were not thinking from the position of being ready to love, right? You wasn't thinking from the position of, okay, is this dude an individual that I would enjoy spontaneity with? He wasn't asking you to do it as a single person and y'all on a show. He was asking to see where your mind is in relation to a relationship. And I think that would be helpful for men and women to be very open in the beginning and see how that person responds, right? On the same show, and I'll drop it here. A guy said, he was talking to the lady on the phone. He said, "Do you prefer choked or spanked?" Right? She said, "I don't think that that's he had asked different questions prior to that. She said, "I don't think that that's a solid question to ask right now." He said, "Well, you made it seem like I was talking about something I would." Now he's gaslighting because everybody knows that's a sexual connotation. But he says, "I wasn't being sexual. Why didn't you ask me if that's what I was being?" Well, she said to you that that's not a good question to ask right now, as opposed to another lady. She was cool with the question, right? But if he wasn't gaslighting and he would just allow the conversation to be what it is, then that would have let him know where the safety net was. And it's the same thing with what I'm saying, that the way that you create a safety net, or the way that you create a safe space, is to allow the conversation to be what it is, be vulnerable with a nugget in the beginning, and see how they pick it up and how they deal with it. Man, this is a good talk, man. I didn't know it was going to go there. Y'all always professional, dignified. You know what I'm saying? Y'all helping Prototype be better. You feel me? He dropped his ego. He was vulnerable. You feel me?
Yeah, I'm seeing a little softer side to Prototype. Got me looking at him a little different now.
I've always been there. Y'all just chose y'all own ego. See me in a different way.
That's what's up.
Touche.
That's touche. Yeah, it's our own ego for sure. So the moral of the story is, make sure y'all check out Lost in Translation podcast. Check out Prototypes podcast. Check out Jamie's podcast, Mistaken, over on Lapeef Network on Friday evenings. And check out Tamia. She's trying to be the #1 mom, on the planet. Hopefully there's some people that are gonna be battling that out for her. Did you put that in the chat? You did. Let me see if I can get that.
I did put it in the chat. Vote for me, y'all.
So you
I'm not
just
the
want
best
somebody to
mom.
vote for you
There's
just
a
because
bunch
they
of
black?
moms that are
Is that
awesome.
what you're saying?
What'd you say?
You want them to vote for you because you black?
Yeah, if that's what's making you vote. If you want to vote for me because I'm black, do that. Black and I'm proud.
For sure. So I dropped the link in the chat to
Thank
vote
you.
for Tamia. She's in a contest for #1 moms.
For mom. It's not even #1 because all of us are great, but it's a super mom contest.
Why not say #1? Why not?
And I mean,
Oh,
number one.
No. Why not say that? If you win, then that's what that means.
Yes, of that contest. You're right.
For sure.
I'm a girl's girl. I'm never gonna.
Well, I'm not gonna argue with you there. If that's how you want to be, that's fine with me. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the channel, and all that jazz. Anybody have anything before we get out of here? What y'all thought about the show? Was it okay? Was it?
Oh, it was good, sir.
It was great.
I love coming to your show.
It was really good.
It's such a different space.
That's the goal.
On this side of things.
Go. I'm trying to provide solutions in real time. You feel me? Hey, until next time, we out here. Deuces.
The boy is dangerous.
Bad feeling about this.
You don't seem to understand something.
The thing that I like most about being a dad is that I see them about to impact the world.